Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another webinar session from the Office of the Head of Service. My name is Bisi Roland from Post-Service Department, and I am your host today. Sorry, we are starting just 3 minutes behind schedule. I was trying to wait for more people to join us so that we would have a larger class. So right now we are 53, so I think we will just go on and they will join us. So welcome once again. On behalf of the Head of Service, Mr. Bode Agoro, and the Permanent Secretary, Public Service Office, Mrs. Sukomi Oyebola, I welcome and appreciate the presence of some of the members of the Association of Lagos State Retired Heads of Service and Permanent Secretaries that are on the call now. Our wonderful retirees of Lagos State Public Service and serving officers who joined. Our topic today is the science of joint wear and tear. And we have with us a physiotherapist. Her name is Ismael-Badmus Nusaybah. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. She attended Alajat Nursery and Primary School for her primary education and subsequently proceeded to Vanguard's Academy for her secondary education. She obtained both her bachelor's and master's degrees in physiotherapy from University of Lagos. She's a licensed and practicing physiotherapist with over 10 years of professional experience. She is committed to promoting health, rehabilitation, and overall well-being. Besides her professional engagements, she enjoys visiting the beach, spending time in solitude, traveling, and creating memorable moments with family and friends. Before I invite our facilitator, I'd like to remind us that during our question and answer session, you can please raise your hand or type your question in the chat box, and we'll call on you or read out your question. Good morning and welcome once again. So, Doctor, please can you unmute yourself and go ahead? Can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning,
everyone.
Yeah. Good morning to you.
Yes, can you hear me? Can I go on?
Yes, please go ahead. Please go on. Please go on.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nusaybah Ismael-Badmus, and I feel honored, I feel privileged to have been considered worthy to deliver this webinar to our esteemed retirees. Signs of joint wear and tear, popularly known as osteoarthritis. And just underneath it, to also be talking about management of hip and knee joint osteoarthritis beyond painkillers through weight management and physical exercises. I hope that at the end of this webinar, we would have been able to understand the biological processes between aging and wear and tear, identify common age-related physical changes, recognize modifiable factors that accelerate aging, I also hope that we'll be able to apply practical strategies for maintaining mobility, strength, and independence. We also hope that at the end of this webinar, we'll be able to understand the role of exercise and preventive health care in healthy aging. And we'll also be able to develop a personal action plan for aging successfully. Now, first thing is that we all know that aging is a natural process. Nobody wants to die young. Everybody wants to grow old. I also want to become a retiree someday. So aging is a natural process. How we then age depends greatly on our lifestyle choices, the choices that we have made before now, the kind of lifestyle that we have lived before now, and the kind of lifestyle that we still currently live. Physical activity, have we always been the sedentary kind of individual, or have we always been someone that's always been active, somebody that takes their fitness journey seriously, or do we just sit for hours? What level of physical activity have we had before now, and what level of physical activity do we currently have? The third one is aging depends greatly on nutrition, the kind of food we eat, the kind of how we eat it, when we eat it, how often, how hydrated are we. Nutrition plays a huge role on how easy or complicated the aging process is for individuals. It also depends on social engagement and healthcare utilization. Healthcare utilization, how accessible are we to healthcare services when we need them? How early do we report complaints or complaints that we have about our health, about our body? How early do we report to the healthcare facilities? What medical conditions have we been dealing with before we got to the age that we are now? All of this plays a huge role in how we eventually navigate this this stage of life that we are in. Now, the signs of aging. What happens as we age? The first thing is cells repair more slowly. When there's an injury, either internally or externally, the rate of recovery slows down as we grow older. So, and which is evident in when, for example, an elderly person, let's say someone that is 65 that gets stroke, and then a 35-year-old that also has stroke. Normally, the prognosis of a 35-year-old is better. Prognosis means the kind of recovery, how fast the recovery is. It looks better for a 35-year-old than a 65-year-old, although cells repair more slowly. So what I was saying was that when we get injuries, when we get any medical condition, the recovery is typically slower in the elderly compared to people that are younger, although it also depends on the state of health of the individual before the injury or before the medical condition sets in. The second thing is muscles lose mass. If we look at, let's hold up our arm and look at it, except for people that are actively involved in exercises that keep fit or that do strength training, we will see that our muscles they look more flabby compared to the way they were 5, 10, 20 years ago.
What do I do?
So typically, muscles lose mass as we grow older, except if we take conscious efforts to, build muscle, to do strength training. The third thing is bones become less dense. The meaning of that is our bones become less stronger, because with aging comes hormonal fluctuations in women, even in men. As we grow older, as women approach menopause, the level of estrogen in our system reduces, which is what is responsible for, calcium deposition, bone strength, and everything. So typically, as we grow older, the bones become less dense. They become less stronger than they used to be before. Now, typically when the muscles lose mass and the bones become less dense, we expect that the joints will become stiffer, because picture just, when we're in secondary school and they used to show us, they will put a skeleton in the biology lab. So picture that skeleton, you remember that it usually will fall down except it's supported with something. That's because the supportive structure for our joints are weaker, muscles are weaker, bones have become less dense. So typically, joints too will become stiffer. The next one is that metabolism will slow down. We realize that when we eat, when we eat, it digests slower than when we were younger. Now, our immunity naturally reduces as we grow older, and like I said earlier, hormones reduce, they fluctuate, resulting in some changes in our systems. Now, we want to move on quickly to understanding joints. Since what we are talking about today is where two bones meet. So we have so many joints in our body. There are the big ones, the obvious ones, and there are also the smaller ones. Picture anywhere that you can bend in your body is typically a joint. A finger has 3 joints. Our jaw, there is the temporomandibular joint. So there are the obvious ones that we all know: the knee, the hip, the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, the ankle. But there are also smaller ones, like the joints between the first phalanx and the second phalanx. There are 3 phalanges per finger, and so they have 3 joints in them. There are also small joints in the foot, small joints in our palm. So a joint is where 2 bones meet, and a joint comprises of the bone, cartilages, synovial fluid, ligaments, tendons, and muscles. So I was saying something earlier about a skeleton that we usually will see in biology lab when we're in secondary school. That's just the skeletal system. Now, the things that make us, the structures that surround structures that make us whole as a human being, that makes it able for us to move, that makes it able for us to have structure, that we don't keep falling down, are the muscles, the cartilages, the ligaments, the tendons. And so when we talk about joints, it's just not the bones. There are other structures involved. And the function of joints generally include movement, shock absorption, and stability. Now, joint health matters because mobility means independence. Our joints are what makes us flexible. Imagine that God created us without joints, just straight bones all the way. It means that we will not be able to bend, we will not be able to sit, we will not be able to change positions, we will not be able to write, we will not be able to move our heads. The only reason why we can move around, why we are flexible, why we are mobile, is because we have so many joints in our body. So in situations whereby the joint is affected by 1 or 2 medical conditions, it generally would affect mobility, which would in turn affect our independence as humans. Now, like I said earlier, healthy joints allows us to walk independently, to climb stairs easily, to pray comfortably, to go out, to sit, to stand, to change position, to twist, to play with our grandchildren, to participate in social activities, go to our religious places, go to parties. Healthy joints allows us to do all of that. Now, we want to quickly go to understanding wear and tear. The most vivid example of wear and tear is that, let's picture that we have one shoe that we wear every day. Just one footwear or one slippers that we wear every single day, and that we've been wearing since we started to walk. Since started to walk like 2 years old till the age that we are now. If we look at the sole of that footwear, of course, by the time we wear one shoe every day for like a year, of course, the sole of that footwear would have started showing signs of wear and tear. Now, imagine the joints, and we will not typically use one footwear throughout our lives, but we do not have replacement for our joints. So, and because of the kind of function that the joints have, it naturally would undergo wear and tear. So wear and tear refers to the gradual decline in body structure and function over time. Now, what are the reasons, what are the causes of wear and tear? The first one, like I mentioned, is aging. Wear and tear is very, very normal with aging. The only time it becomes a serious cause of concern is when it happens in younger people, or when it happens when the level of wear and tear that you see in younger people is not what you expect at that age. Then you can begin to question other reasons or other conditions that can be responsible for the wear and tear. But naturally, as we grow older, our body begins to decline in structure and in function. The second thing is repeated use. Imagine someone that works as a secretary for 35 years, that either types or writes a lot. It is only natural that that person comes down with some neck pain or shoulder pain, or what we call trigger finger, or pain in the fingers or the wrist. That is what we call overuse syndrome, or what is stated here in number 2 as repeated use. So the joints that we use typically more than the others in our every day-to-day life would show more signs of wear and tear than other joints in our body, because they get to do more functions than the others. The third one is environmental exposure. Number 4 is lifestyle habits. Under lifestyle habits, we have either you lead a active life or a sedentary life. If you lead an active life, it means that you've been preserving your joint mobility, consciously preserving your joint mobility, consciously strengthening your muscles. And so the level and the rate of wear and tear in someone that has been active before now, or someone that is even currently active, is not the same as somebody that leads a sedentary lifestyle. Also, lifestyle habits such as smoking, excessive alcohol, they all have a negative effect on our body. And so people that engage in such activities, of course, they would have, not in all cases anyway, accelerated wear and tear compared to other people that do not engage in those activities of their age. And then the last one here is disease conditions. There are some disease conditions that typically make an individual have accelerated wear and tear in any part of their body compared to another individual of that age. Example is rheumatoid arthritis. Example is in sickle cell survivors. Sickle cell survivors will typically come down with a lot of joint issues, and the most common one is the avascular necrosis of the hip, of the femoral head, which is a condition whereby the space between the head of the femur and the acetabulum that makes the hip is totally eroded, and even the head of the femur has started degenerating. And in such cases, you can see a 25-year-old sickle cell survivor going for a total or partial hip replacement. That's an example of a disease condition that can make wear and tear happen. Knee osteoarthritis, back pain, neck pain, hip osteoarthritis, bearing in mind that osteoarthritis can happen at any joint in the body at all. Now, since we want to talk about wear and tear of the joints, and we already established earlier that part of the things that make up the joints are the bones, the muscles, the tendon, the ligaments. So we'll take them one by one. When we talk about wear and tear of the muscles, age-related muscle loss, we are not talking about the pathological one. We are not talking about the ones that could have been caused by a disease condition. We are talking about the one that is age-related, that happens as we grow older. Research has shown that muscle mass decreases by 1 to 2% yearly after the age of 50. And that was what I was saying earlier, that if you hold up your arm in front of you, you will see that the muscles of your arm are not as firm as they used to be 5-10 years ago. Strength also declines faster than muscle size. Now, a strong indication when we hold out our arm and we see that our muscles are a bit flabby, that's what we call the tone of the muscle. Now, there's a direct relationship between muscle strength and muscle tone. The lower the tone, in most cases, the lower the strength also. So strength also declines faster than muscle size, and there's reduced support for the skeletal system. Since we already said earlier, that part of what gives us the structure that we have is not only the skeletal system, but also the muscles and other supportive structures. Now, if the muscles are weak and the tone has reduced, that will lead to joint instability because the supportive structures are now weak. The muscles are weak, the muscle mass is reducing, and which means there will be less support for the joint, and we will now lead to joint instability. Now, if the joints are stable, it predisposes us as elderly to frequent falls. I don't know if you are following the sequence. So it's like it's one thing that leads to the other. The joints are stable. Sorry, it leads to poor balance because part of the things that is the joints and everything that makes up for it that gives us the balance that we have, except in neurological cases where the balance is altered from the brain. Otherwise, our musculoskeletal system gives us the balance. And so when the balance becomes poor, then we'll have frequent falls. And then when fall becomes frequent, we become wary of falling. Nobody wants to keep falling down. And when you know that if I move from point A to point B, there's a very high likelihood that we will fall, we begin to outsource some of our daily activities. We already know that when we want to go to the bank, there are stairs, there are steps at the bank. And maybe we have probably had an experience of falling while trying to ascend the stairs. It creates a natural fear for stairs climbing. And so we'd rather send somebody to go to the bank for us than go to the bank by ourselves. So that gives difficulty navigating around essential facilities, which eventually reduces independence, because independence means that we'll be able to carry out all our activities of daily living with minimal to no help at all. But now that we have to outsource certain activities or certain aspects of our lives, it reduces independence. Now, we'll talk about wear and tear of the bones. Most common wear and tear of the bones that happens in the elderly is what we call osteoporosis. And osteoporosis is a medical condition in which the bones become brittle. They are not as strong as they used to be. And it is more common in women than in men. It is more common in women than in men because of the decline in estrogen when women attain menopause. And so when women attain menopause and estrogen reduces, it reduces calcium in the bones. And so our bones become more brittle. They are not as strong as they used to be. And so what are the risk factors for osteoporosis? Age, hormonal changes like I mentioned in women, physical inactivity. In individuals that, when we were active in service, we come to work every day, we commute, we go back home, we are a lot more active. And now that our level of physical activity has reduced significantly, physical inactivity or sedentary lifestyle predisposes us to osteoporosis. Now, when we consistently take diet that is low in calcium and vitamin D, it predisposes us to osteoporosis. Smoking and excessive alcohol intake, and then certain medications such as steroids, corticosteroids can predispose an individual to osteoporosis. Now, what does osteoporosis lead to? Since we have established that osteoporosis is the most common wear and tear, most common bone condition in the elderly. Number one is a stooped posture. We tend to bend. When we see the elderly that bend, one of the things that causes that stooped posture is that the bones are not as strong as they used to be. Now, the second one is what we call fracture, pathological fracture. I don't know if you've seen situations where just a minimal fall, an old person, just small, a minimal fall, it can be as little as hitting his or her leg against the chair. And then the next thing you see is that the person has sustained a fracture. It's called a pathological fracture because the force that causes that fracture on a normal day, under normal circumstances where osteoporosis is not present, that force is not significant enough to cause the fracture. And so when a force that is not significant enough to causes fracture, we call it a pathological fracture. And osteoporosis can also be a cause for chronic pain in the elderly. Now that we have talked about wear and tear of the bones, we have talked about wear and tear of the muscles, now we'll talk about wear and tear of the joints. Now, the most common joint disease in the elderly is osteoarthritis. What is osteoarthritis? Osteoarthritis is a continuous degenerative condition of the joint. Continuous. When it starts, it continues. As we age, it continues. Although there are some other risk factors that predisposes us to osteoarthritis. And so as we go on, we might eventually realize that we might have more than one risk factor that can predispose us that has already given us the osteoarthritis. So it is a continuous degenerative process. Degeneration is another word for wear and tear. And so how does it occur? It occurs when the cartilage gradually deteriorates. I think I have a picture somewhere that shows, we'll get there, that shows the cartilage, the tendons and all of that. There's the cartilage gradually deteriorates. Joint surfaces that were smooth before, they become rough. Inflammation develops. The spaces between the joints reduce. And so all of that gives us pain. And it commonly affects the knee, the hip, the spine, or the hands. Although, like I said earlier, osteoarthritis can happen in any joint of the body. You can have osteoarthritis of the jaw because it is a joint. We can have osteoarthritis of one of the tiny joints in the finger. So osteoarthritis can happen in any joint of the body. What are the risk factors that predisposes us to osteoarthritis? The first one is age, like we have been saying. The second one is family history. If we have a parent or any member of the family at all that has osteoarthritis, there is a very high likelihood that we as an individual, or even our children, can come down with it. We can do everything right, manage our weight, do everything, and still come down with osteoarthritis. The third one is obesity. Obesity is one of the leading causes of osteoarthritis. Previous injuries, in situations where we've had a sprain or a strain or a fracture close to the joint, it predisposes us to having osteoarthritis later in life. The last one is poor joint alignment. In individuals that were born with bow or K leg, there is a very high likelihood that they will develop. There's a very high likelihood that they will develop osteoarthritis later in life. Now, symptoms include pain, stiffness, swelling, reduced joint mobility. We'll see that we are not able to bend that joint as much as we could before the pain and the stiffness started. There's also reduced activity because when there is pain, we become wary of carrying out movements that we know that will typically give us pain. So now let's briefly talk about the science behind osteoarthritis. As I mentioned it earlier, aging changes that occur in the joints include, so we are talking about this osteoarthritis as regards to aging. We are not going to cover the osteoarthritis that is caused by other things. We'll talk about it as regards to aging, and we're also going to talk about the management of knee and hip osteoarthritis beyond pain reliever, beyond using medications. We'll get there. So from here, we'll be talking about osteoarthritis as regards to aging. Now, aging changes that occur in the joint include reduced cartilage repair. When there's an injury, the cartilage does not recover or repair faster. It does not repair as fast as it used to be. Our body, the way God designed our body is that the body kind of repairs when there's a damage to a cell. The cell regenerates, other cells regenerate to, cover up for that injury. And that's why in cases of fracture, there will be callus formation that will cover up that fracture site. So the body kind of repairs itself. So in aging, there's reduced cartilage repair, there's reduced joint lubrication. What is responsible for joint lubrication is what we call synovial fluid. And so as we grow older, the synovial fluid reduces in between the bones. Synovial fluid is usually between the bones that are responsible for each joint. Let's take the knee, for example. Okay, so let's go to, can you go to the slide that has what happens in knee osteoarthritis? Now, if we look at it closely, we'll see the synovial membrane. So you see in between that, the knee is made up of the femur that is up, that's the femur is up, and the tibia is down. Our joints, our bones do not touch each other. There are usually spaces in between every bone that makes up a joint. And in between those spaces, there is a synovial fluid that is responsible for lubrication. And so when that synovial fluid reduces, the joint space equally reduces. And that is one of the things that gives us pain. There's muscle weakness, like we mentioned earlier. There's bone remodeling, and there's consequently reduced flexibility. Those are some of the changes that occur as we grow older. Okay, so I mentioned, so I'll talk about the risk factors again, more broadly. So we have the non-modifiable risk factors, and we have the modifiable risk factors. The non-modifiable risk factors are risk factors that are beyond our control, risk factors that we cannot do anything about. Like as age is one of it. Everybody wants to grow old. Nobody wants to die young. And so as we grow old, we have to also deal with the consequences of growing old. The second one is genetics. A child born today to grandparents that have had osteoarthritis does not have any control over that. The third one is previous injury. For someone that has had a fall, that has had a sprain, that has had a strain, that has had a fracture, it naturally predisposes them to arthritis of the joint that was affected by that injury. And so that is beyond human control. The last one is poor joint alignment. People that are born with bow leg or K leg, they didn't ask to be born like that. So it is beyond, it's not a choice that they made. Now, when we talk about modifiable risk factors, those are risk factors that are within, that we can change. Those are risk factors that are within our control. The first one is obesity, weight. Now, when we talk about obesity as a risk factor for osteoarthritis, we'll take the knee as a case study. We'll take the knee as a case study. The knee is a major weight-bearing joint of the body. And so when we are obese, it puts a lot of, in an individual that is obese, it puts a lot of strain and a lot of pressure on the knee, because the knee is carrying more than it should. It's carrying a weight bigger than what it should carry. The second one is sedentary lifestyle. We have a choice, either to sit down all day or to decide to move. We have a choice, either to sit down and watch movies, or in our houses, or at whatever leisure activities that we are engaging in now. We have a shop, we have a business. We have a choice to either take a break from sitting every 1 hour or to sit for 5 hours. That is within our capability. We have a choice to decide whether we want to be taking walks, daily walks every day for as little as 15 minutes, or to decide that we do not want to do any form of physical exercise. That is a choice. Muscle weakness is a modifiable risk factor. Because when the muscles are weak, we can strengthen them, except in disease conditions. And like I said, we are not taking into consideration this condition for the purpose of this presentation. The next one is poor posture. When we assume poor posture over time, it weakens the muscles that are responsible for that posture. And a very good example is our back. When we sit for a long period of time and then we don't even sit upright, or if the chair that we are sitting in is not good, it's not providing the kind of support that we should have, it gives us poor posture. And then the last one is repetitive strain. So what happens in knee? I think the slide is moving faster than I am. Can we go back to what happens in knee osteoarthritis?
Oh, sorry, it was an error. I think it's the cursor.
Oh,
so
okay.
Where do you want me to take it back to?
What happens in knee osteoarthritis?
Okay.
Yes. So we have two images here. We have image of the typical knee, and then we have image of a knee affected by osteoarthritis. I want us to pay attention to some of the structures. We'll start from the first one, the articular capsule. When we look at it in the normal knee and the knee that has osteoarthritis, we'll see that the articular capsule thickens. It becomes thicker compared to what it should normally be. And then there is inflammation of the synovial membrane. The synovial membrane becomes inflamed, and that is sometimes what is responsible for the swelling that we feel when we come down with knee osteoarthritis. Now, if you look at the space between the two bones, in the normal knee and the knee with osteoarthritis, we will see that the knee with osteoarthritis are almost touching each other because the space has reduced. And so when the space reduces, it makes it difficult for us to bend that joint, or in this case, the knee, as much as we used to before the osteoarthritis started. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the purpose of synovial fluid, which is for lubrication and shock absorption, we will see in this case that the synovial fluid has roughly. Then, if we look at the bone surfaces, there's irregular thickening and some form of degeneration of the bone surfaces. Then, what also typically happens in osteoarthritis is also bony spurs, which is not very obvious in that image, but it's more obvious in X-rays. We'll see that there are tiny bony spurs here and there that could be causing us pain. Now, why is knee osteoarthritis so common? I mentioned earlier that the knee is a major weight-bearing joint of the body, and so all of our body weight comes down to our knee. And 3 to 4 times body weight is transmitted through the knee while we are walking, while 5 to 7 times body weight is transmitted through the knee while climbing. So we can see how important the knee joint is to our daily mobility and our daily day-to-day life. Now, we are also going to look at hip osteoarthritis. Now, the principle of osteoarthritis is the process is the same. It's more usually the same across all joints, regardless of the joint. Recording in progress. Regardless of the joint that is affected. Because if you look at the hip now, there's also reduced joint space, there's worn out cartilages, there's bony spurs, or what we call osteophytes. So it's still the same process regardless of the joint that is affected. And so why does it matter that we need to look at hip osteoarthritis and how it affects our day-to-day life? The effects on daily activities such as walking, standing, dressing, sitting, getting in and out of vehicles. Just picture that you have pain on one or both sides of your hip, and you realize how difficult it would be to even move around. And the symptoms range from pain to stiffness and reduced mobility. Now, we we want to look at managing hip and knee osteoarthritis beyond painkillers. And so we have here a table of what painkillers can do and what painkillers cannot do. We have explained earlier the process that leads to osteoarthritis. And so what painkillers will do is to relieve the pain and give us comfort, because usually it's the pain that causes the discomfort. So when we take painkillers, for the time that we take the painkillers, it does help to relieve the pain and improve discomfort. But what the painkiller will not do is that it will not strengthen the muscles, it will not improve mobility, it will not promote weight loss in cases where obesity is the cause of the osteoarthritis, it will not restore joint function, and it will not improve overall body fitness. Now, management of osteoarthritis takes a multidisciplinary approach. You see the medical doctor for medications. In most cases, they will ask for an X-ray, so you go to see the radiographer or the medical imaging specialist. You see the physiotherapist. You see the dietitian or the nutritionist for, proper diet in cases where, there's lack of sufficient calcium or vitamin D within the system, or in cases where weight loss is implied. And in some cases, in some extreme cases where the last resort is probably a joint replacement surgery, you see an orthopedic surgeon. So it's important that we take a holistic approach in the management of osteoarthritis. Just as it is important to take a holistic approach in the management of almost all disease conditions. Now, where does physiotherapy come in? The scope of physiotherapy intervention include pain management, exercise prescription, balance training, mobility improvement, fall prevention, long-term self-management, and prevention of deformities. Because I don't think I mentioned earlier that it gets to, osteoarthritis can actually get to a stage where it now gives an individual that never had K-leg. We said it earlier that people that were born with bow or K-leg are predisposed to osteoarthritis. But in the reverse case, someone that has the normal joint alignment can have osteoarthritis that becomes severe to an extent where it alters the joint alignment and the person even ends up with K-leg. So one of the goals of physiotherapy will be to prevent such deformities from happening. So we'll look at weight management in the weight loss in the management of osteoarthritis. It is important to note that obesity is one of the most critical modifiable risk factors for osteoarthritis, because like I mentioned earlier, the knee is the major weight-bearing joint of the body. And so if we are able to, in cases where obesity is implied, if we are able to reduce the weight, it will go a very, very long way. Excess weight accelerates joint degeneration by exerting intense mechanical stress on weight-bearing joints such as the knee, like I explained earlier, and also promotes chronic systemic inflammation that breaks down cartilage. Research shows that for every 1 kg loss, we are talking about someone that is on a weight loss journey now. For every 1 kg that you lose, the knee experiences approximately 4 kg less load while walking. Can we imagine that? That if you weigh 97 today and you lose 1 kg, you now weigh 96 kg. That 1 kg that you lose from your weight takes 4 kg load off the knee while walking. And weight management also involves dietary modifications by physiotherapy, by nutritionist, and a comprehensive exercise and fitness regimen by a physiotherapist. Benefits of weight management include reduced pain, improved mobility, and slower disease progression. Now, what are the roles of exercises? Exercise is medicine. Just like paracetamol or any of our drugs that we take is medicine. Exercise is medicine. Exercise is medicine because for most of the disease conditions that we experience as individuals, exercise and being physically active plays a huge role in how well they are managed, from osteoarthritis to hypertension, to diabetes, to heart conditions, exercise and physical activity plays a very huge role in how those disease conditions are managed. And so exercise is nature's joint lubricant. Is because when we move, our joints become more flexible. We maintain the joint mobility. And in cases where it has been reduced, we try to increase joint mobility. And so the more we move, the more fluid our joints are, the more easy, the more the more lighter even our body feels. For people that take walks, people that jog, for people that use the gym, for people that use the treadmill, we'll see that by the time we are done with our exercises, we feel lighter. Our joints feel lighter. Our body feels lighter. The WHO recommends 150 minutes of moderate activity weekly for the elderly. I think I mentioned earlier so the benefits of exercises include pain relief, strengthens the muscles, improves flexibility. Like I mentioned earlier, exercise helps us to improve our joint flexibility and our muscle flexibility, because there are situations where muscles can actually become tight and that will now result in pain. But when we do regular exercises, when we engage in a lot of physical activity, it improves both the joint and the muscle flexibility. It strengthens our muscles. Then the fourth one is, when we do all of that, it's just natural that we'll have an improved quality of life. And then it enhances balance. And once balance has been enhanced, it reduces the risk of fall. That's, speaking generally, the rules of exercises. Now, in elderly, before we narrow down the exercises to the ones for osteoarthritis, there are like 4 groups of exercises that we can do in the elderly. The first one is aerobic walking, aerobic exercises. That includes walking, brisk jogging, light jogging, brisk walking, light jogging, swimming, use of the treadmill. All of those are aerobic exercises. And what do we mean by what makes them aerobic exercises is that we are moving our body, but it also helps us to improve our cardiopulmonary and cardiovascular endurance. What that means is that if you notice that if you use the treadmill for like a week or like a month, and you used to use it for like, let's say 20 minutes, after that, after some time, your body gets used to that 20 minutes. And then you are tempted to increase the time to maybe 30 minutes. What is happening is that your cardiopulmonary health, when I say cardiopulmonary health, we're talking about cardio means the heart, pulmonary means the lungs, or cardiovascular is cardio means the heart, vascular means the arteries, the veins that carry blood away from the heart and back. All of that, they get stronger as we exercise our body. And that is the purpose of aerobic exercises. We are moving our joints, we are moving our body, we are getting fitter, and we are also, strengthening our cardiovascular system. We are increasing endurance. Endurance means that something that you naturally would do, and in 10 minutes, you're already tired. Improved endurance means that you can go for 20 minutes, you can go for 30 minutes. And that's why we see that when we first start exercising, you get tired very easily. But when you are consistent with it, it will get to a stage where the exercise that used to get you fatigued easily, you do them very easily. And then you feel like, oh, I can do more. I can do more. I can do more. So fitness is a lifestyle journey. It's a lifelong journey. Even when you get to a stage where you feel, okay, I've built enough muscles, now what you want to do is maintenance. So it's a lifelong journey. The second one is strength training. We mentioned earlier that one of the things that happen with aging is that our muscle strength reduces. And so some of the exercises that we can do in as elderly people is strength training. Light weights, 1 kg dumbbell, 2 kg dumbbell. We can use resistance bands to do strength training. There's also balance exercises. Balance exercises helps us to reduce the frequency of falls in the elderly. And there's also flexibility exercises such as stretching, because I mentioned earlier that in some circumstances muscles are tight, And when muscles are tight, that itself is enough to give us pain. And so when we do a lot of stretches, yoga, and all of that, it keeps our joints and our muscles flexible while helping us keep fit. So these are some of the exercises, basic exercises. There are a lot of them. And usually, just like medications, they are usually not a one-size-fits-all exercises for knee osteoarthritis or hip osteoarthritis or any osteoarthritis at all, because there are quite a number of things that the physiotherapist has to consider. But basically, the first one is what we call heel slide. That's the first exercise that is there. You lie on your back, and then you put your heel on the floor, if you're lying on the floor or whatever surface that you're lying on, and then you slide the heel towards you, making a motion to bend your knee, and you slide it out back. So when you do that motion, you bend your knee and you take it back. That's one rep. So standard for, let's say you just want to start this exercise, the standard is that you do 10 repetitions, which means you take your heel towards you and out. That's one. You do it again and out. That's two. You do it again and out. That's three. You do 10 reps and then 3 sets of that. Now, what does this exercise do? Number one is that it increases the mobility of the knee joint, because if you look at it very well, the major joints that you are moving is the knee joint. So it increases the mobility of that joint. It does not allow for stiffness to happen. And in situations where the mobility is reduced already, if you do this frequently, it begins to improve with time. The second thing that it does is that it stretches and contracts the quadriceps and the hamstring muscles. And then when you apply weight, and when you apply maybe a sandbag of maybe 1 kg to this exercise, it easily becomes a strengthening exercise. Now, the second one is the one we see the young man raising his leg straight up. That is what we call the straight leg raise. Now, this can perform a number of functions. The first one is that it helps to stretch the hamstring muscles. The hamstring muscles is muscles at the back of the leg, at the back of the thigh. That's the first one. The second one is that in cases of hip osteoarthritis, it also helps to improve joint mobility. And in cases where the mobility has been reduced already, or sustain the mobility that we currently have. It also helps to improve the flexibility of that joint. Now, the third exercise that we have here is what we call the full arc extension. The starting position is for the knee that is bent. You see that the arrow is going up. So you sit on a surface that your leg is not touching the floor. And then you take your leg up, straightening the knee, and then down. Up and then down. This also helps to preserve joint mobility, helps to preserve the joint space, and is easily a quadriceps strengthening exercise. And because at the ankle, if you apply a 1 kg sandbag, a weight there, it becomes very, very easily a strengthening exercise for the quadriceps and for the knee joint. Now, the next one we are looking at is a man riding a stationary bike. What stationary bicycle does is that this stationary bike strengthens the muscles of the entire lower limb. Because the motions that you're carrying out while riding that stationary bicycle is called the bicycle ergometer. The motions that are carried out while riding that bicycle, it involves the ankle, the knee, and the hip joint. So it covers most of the major joints of the leg, of the lower limb. So it helps to preserve joint mobility, increasing it in situations where it has been reduced. Most stationary bikes have resistance, whereby you can gradually increase the resistance, and then it will become a strengthening exercise, where it becomes harder to ride, and then you get used to that little resistance, and then you increase the resistance as you go. In a situation where we don't have a stationary bike, we can do what we call cycling in the air, where we lie on our back. I don't have an image of it here. You lie on your back and you make the same cycling movement in the air as if you are riding a bicycle. That also does the job of a stationary bike. And then the last one that we have here is what we call the hip bridging exercise. The hip bridging exercise helps to, number one, strengthen the gluteal muscles. Gluteal muscles are the muscles of our bum, our buttock muscle. There are 3 of them. They strengthen the gluteal muscles, and they also help to open up the hip joint, thereby reducing pain and increasing hip joint, increasing the joint space and mobility. So these are some of the exercises that we can do. Like I said, there's no one size fits all, but these are safe. You can use these ones as your starting point into this journey towards healthier joints. Now, as we take baby steps towards healthier joints, these are some of the things that we should consider. Now, for somebody that has not been doing exercises before, please do not put yourself under so much pressure. Start small and then progress gradually. Don't be influenced. We are not young anymore. So don't be influenced by, oh, they say we should exercise, and then you now start and say, oh, today I want to run 5 kilometers. No. But if you've not been exercising before, and you want to start now, for aerobic exercises, you can start with walking. A 15-minute walk every day. If you do that for a week or two, you get used to it, and then you can either decide to increase the timing or progress walking to brisk walking. So brisk walking is in between walking and jogging. You're not walking, but you're not jogging. You're walking a little bit faster. So start small and then progress gradually, and you'll be surprised at the level of progress that you can make. The other reason why you need to start small is that you do not want to put so much pressure on your body at once. You want to put that pressure gradually so that you don't go to the gym, or you say you want to start exercising one day. You remember we said that one of the wear and tear of the bones that happens in the elderly is osteoporosis. So you need to be careful. You don't want to go and say, oh, you want to start lifting weight, you want to do all the things that the young people are doing, and then you get a pathological fracture from it. So start small and then progress gradually. The second thing is consistency is key. You cannot afford to say, oh, I'll do it this week, and then for the next 3 weeks, you don't do anything. You are not going to get results that way. The third one is know your body as well as your limits. No two people are the same. No, even twins are not the same. So you need to know your body and know what you can do at a particular time, and then do it so that you don't overexert your body, and at the same time you are making optimal progress. The last one is acknowledge your efforts and reward your little wins. If you don't acknowledge your own efforts, if you don't say, oh, today the 2 kg dumbbell that was difficult for you to carry before, you just realize that you are carrying it a lot more easier, then give yourself a pat on the back for doing a very good job, so that encourages you to do better, to progress in this fitness journey. So let's go over some general wellness tips. The first one is to stay active. We've mentioned all the possible things that can come with leading a sedentary lifestyle. So please try as much as possible to stay active. Diet and nutrition. It's important that we eat right. We eat when we eat, what we eat is also important. It's also important that we hydrate properly. We drink enough water. Now is not the time to take excess sugar, to take excess salt. Now is not the time to take soda, Pepsi, Coke. No, try to take as much as possible. Drink enough water, eat a lot of fruit, eat a lot of vegetable, as much as you can, because diet and nutrition, we are what we eat. So diet and nutrition plays a very, very long role in how, a very huge role in how healthy we become, or how healthy we are. The third one is to sleep adequately. It's important that we prioritize sleep, we prioritize rest. Number 4 is regular medical checkups. If you don't check, you will not know. In some cases, there are cases of people with high blood pressure and they did not know. People walking around with blood pressure as high as 200, but because they did not check. And it's not in all cases that your body will give you a sign to say something is wrong. So it's important that we do regular medical checkups as much as we can. Check your blood pressure regularly, check your blood sugar regularly. You know, for those of us that have been diagnosed with hyperlipidemia, high cholesterol level, try as much as possible to check all of those things regularly so that you will know when something is wrong. The next one is when you feel something, say something. When you feel, I said earlier that you know your body and you know your limits. Yes. So we all know our body. So when you feel that something is wrong, don't just, just brush it aside. Your instinct tells you if something is wrong. If your body tells you that something is wrong, then it's important that we take it seriously. The next one is manage existing medical conditions. For those of us that have been diagnosed hypertensive, those of us that have been diagnosed diabetic, please use your medications, check your vitals regularly. And in cases where you are using your medications and it seems like the medications are not controlling your vitals, it's not controlling your blood pressure, please see your doctor and have your medications reviewed. It's important that whatever existing medical conditions that we have, that we manage them very, very well. Now, stay engaged. Be retired. After retirement is not the time where you decide that you just want to be staying at home. Now is the time to engage in a lot of hobbies. You want to do gardening, so many things that you can engage in that will keep you active, that will keep you engaged, and that would also task your brain, and in the long run keeps you as healthy as possible. Now, engage in a lot of community activities, picnics, you want to go to church, now is not the time to just decide that you want to stay at home. Try to stay engaged as much as possible. Now, the next one is pick up healthy habits, one after the other. We all know ourselves. We know where we default. We know the unhealthy habits that we have. We know the healthy habits that we have. So today, make a decision to replace one unhealthy habit with a healthy one. Make that decision today. And one after the other, you realize that you will drop the unhealthy habits one by one. Next, we talk about prevent falls. It's very important that we prevent or minimize falls as much as possible. Some of the things that can cause falls, we have said it earlier, when the muscles are weak, when the joints are unstable. But there are also other things like poor lighting of where we live. Something as simple as, we want to go to the toilet, and then the place is not well lit, and then we fall. And we know that as elderly, we want to prevent falls as much as possible because of the osteoporosis that I mentioned earlier. It could also be that maybe our eyesight is not as good as it used to be, and so we don't see well. So there are a couple of things that can cause falls in the elderly. Let us look at the ones that apply to us and try to take care of it as much as possible. Protect your mental health, because your mental health reflects on your physical. Now is not the time to binge watch on all the bad things happening in the country. Protect your mental health. It's good to stay abreast of happenings around, but it's also important that we strike a balance. So you're not in a constant state of fear. You're not in a constant state of, anxiety. You're not constantly anxious. Protect your mental health. Find joy in the little things that you do. And last one, like I mentioned earlier, consistency is key. Do a little every day. What matters is that you move every day. Now, I want to look at some myths, some of the things that we know, that we hear around, and we want to see, is it a myth or a fact? The first one is old age means weakness. That is clearly a myth, because we'll see there are older people in their 70s, their 80s, that run marathons. Even if we can't run marathons, the fact that we are old, or the fact that we are getting older, does not mean that we have to be weak. Strength can improve at any age. What is important is that we take conscious effort to improve our strength. A young person can equally be weak. A young person can equally be weak. So strength can improve at any age. The second one is that falls are a normal part of aging. No, falls are not a normal part of aging. Most falls are preventable. Most falls are preventable. There's usually something causing it. It's either the vision is poor or the place is, for example, maybe the tiles in the house is the kinds that are slippery and somebody mistakenly spilled water on the floor. You know, most falls are preventable. The last one is exercise is dangerous for the seniors. No, proper exercise improves health and longevity. And you know, the good thing is that you don't even need to do too much. What you need, maintenance is what you need at this age. So yes, you can improve, you can start. If you are on a fitness journey, kudos to you. If you are not, you can start now. Then before I round up, I want to remind us that aging is inevitable. Like I said earlier, I also want to grow old. I want to be like you. I want to retire. So aging is inevitable, but disability is not. We can choose to be old, we can choose to be elderly, and also be healthy. We also said that weight loss reduces joint stress. When we reduce the additional weight, the additional baggage that we're giving our joints, we become healthier. We also said that exercise is medicine. Now, the fifth one, painkillers are only a part of treatment. I'm not saying we should not use painkillers, but that is not the only treatment. I mentioned earlier that for joint wear and tear, for osteoarthritis, it is a multidisciplinary approach. So as you are using the painkillers, look into your nutrition, see a physiotherapist, and then combine all of it together. Physiotherapy helps improve function, and then lastly, active aging is achievable. Protect your joints, protect your independence. Healthy aging is not about avoiding age. It is about maintaining function, mobility, dignity, and quality of life. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so very much. That was a very robust and enlightening presentation. Very, very informative. Thank you. Thank you everyone for still being on the call. We are 146 in class today. That's a very good attendance. Thank you to all our retirees. Now we've come to the questions and answer session. So I've seen in the chat box, we have some questions already. And if you have any contribution or questions, you can raise your hand. If you can't, if you don't want to put it in the chat box. But just to quickly give us a recap, a very, very short recap from what I learned from this is that we have to keep our weight under control. We have to stay physically active and strengthen our muscles. And for me, I don't even think it's only for the elderly, even for the young ones too. It's not advisable to be on the, on the big side, on the heavy side, and everybody has to be physically active, and those are basically the best ways to prevent or delay the joint wear and tear, like our facilitator told us. So the first question I have, although I'm not sure if you have taken it already. Someone is asking, can we have examples of environmental exposure? Did you hear that? Doctor, did you hear that? Uh-oh.
No, I didn't.
Did you hear what I said?
I didn't hear the first question.
Can we have examples of environmental exposure?
I can't hear anything. I don't know if it's just me.
Oh. Okay, if you can't hear me, you can just go to the chat box and say the question. I don't know no, I can, you
Oh,
are
I didn't hear you.
Okay. Can we have examples of environmental
It's
exposures?
breaking in the network.
Okay. Xiaomi 2404AR, can you please unmute yourself so that you can ask your question or your contribution? I don't know if everybody can hear me. Okay. Oh. Sorry, can you unmute yourself again? I'm sorry. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, ma.
Good morning, ma.
Thank you so much for this awesome presentation. A refreshing one for those of us that may have had some background knowledge. So, well, two things make me want to discuss now. The emphasis, I think you place a lot of emphasis on the exercise and various aspects of that in the lifestyle modification to prevent osteoarthritis and other disease conditions of the limbs. So, but we didn't talk too much about the diet, what to eat, what not to eat. I think somebody's also flashing the same comment now. Maybe what's the fruits to take, the kind of things to avoid, and all of that. And also, I can see people are flashing comments in that direction. What drugs to use, multivitamins to prevent, because actually I see prevention being a very, very vital part, of keeping us healthy. Those of us above 60, 50, 60, prevention of all of these conditions. Because once they come, it's not so easy to manage. They are not so easy to manage. For instance, I'm dealing with a condition on my left kneecap already. I'm having some pain there. Some people close to me officially know that. So if I dare put on high heels, I go, into some crisis. So if I know it's maybe like in kind of negligence on my part, but if one had something, going on as busy as we were, something like this just going on before we even get to this stage, a lot of the prevention could have been done. A lot of prevention can be achieved. So that, and then lastly, taking medications, being a pharmacist, I know we deal with about side effects, precautions. Like you also know, doctors, that we need to now deal with things, that happen when you now take those regimens overly too much. Like I'm almost permanently on NSAIDs now, and the issue about ulcer and all those things. So if we could really prevent, it to be better. And paracetamol, over time, that it could cause renal failure, renal impairment, and a lot of people just go paracetamol. I know one aunt of mine that said she lost her cousin, a uncle, to paracetamol overdosage. So people, as simple as it may sound, that you just take paracetamol when you need 3 times daily. Over time, it may cause a negative feedback. So those are my comments, ma. And lastly, if you could have these slides, if you could just have them sent to us for refresh. Thank you, ma.
All right, thank you so very much. Sorry about the pains and the loss. Yeah, the physiotherapist has gone off again. I think it's our network because it's raining heavily here. So I guess her network is bad. For the slides, I've put it in the chat box already. We would send it to the retirees platform. Someone is asking that which retirees platforms. I'm very sure there are many retiree platforms. So whichever one it is that post-service department has is where we would put it. So those of us that are on that particular platform, please send it to as many retirees that you know that are not on the platform. Because I know that there is an official, in quotes, an official retirees platform which post-service department has. So the slides will be put there. Then again, we have a channel on YouTube. It's called Public Service Retirees Cooperative MS. I'll put it in the chat box now. Public Service Retirees Cooperative MS. So you just type that on YouTube. So you would see this particular session and previous ones that we've had. There are over 80 or thereabout webinar sessions that are on that platform. So you can always go back to listen to this session. The doctor is not back. And I don't know, I can't answer some of the questions. Then the diet that you talked about, I think because she's a physiotherapist, I guess she can't talk so much about diet, but we could always bring a nutritionist. We've done that series of times too. We've had nutritionists on some of our sessions, but we could always bring more people. More nutritionists, sorry about that, or dietitians. Yeah, she's still not back. But anyway, someone is asking what type of vitamins are necessary for the elderly. Like I said, we have to wait for her.
Can we have like a recreation center, like a gym created by
yes,
the
I was coming to that because of the joint thing that she talked about. I wanted to talk about it after we're done with the session. The Lagos State government has created 20, I don't know how many of us know about it, but we have 20 recreation and wellness centers in the 20 local government areas in Lagos State. They are located in different, like I said, in the 20 local government centers. So I'll just read out. Sorry, I just want to check if she's back. No, she's not back. Okay. So I'll just read out the centers so that we can go there.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong. Yeah.
Okay, you are back. Okay, please. I'm sorry, so that we won't take our facilitator's time. So let her just go through the questions. Someone is asking about the what vitamins can the elderly take? What multivitamins can the elderly take? Hello, doctor, can you hear me? Hello, doctor, are you there, please?
Okay, so am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, yeah.
Can you hear me, Mans and Saz?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, she's gone off again. Okay, so as I was saying about the centers, we have at Agege.
Where in Agege?
I just want to mute people so that okay. So in Agege, we have it at St. Peter's Nursery and Primary School. At Koshofe, we have it at Ojota Nursery and Primary School. In Ikorodu, Omitoro Town Hall, Ijede Road in Ikorodu. Mushin, we have it at Araromi Nursery and Primary School, Mushin. In Badagry, LA Nursery and Primary School, Ibereko. I'm sorry if that's not the pronunciation. In Badagry. Ikeja, we have it at the local government primary school complex in Ikeja. Lagos Island, we have it at Holy Cross Catholic Mission Nursery and Primary School. In Surulere, it is at Obele Community High School in Surulere. Alimosho, we have it at Idimu Nursery and Primary School Complex. Apapa is at Metropolitan Nursery and Primary School, Sari Igomu. At Ajeromi Ifelodun, we have it at Muslim Nursery and Primary School, Awodiora, Ajeromi Ifelodun. In Shomolu, the center there is Okemeta Nursery and Primary School. Oshodi Solo, Methodist Wesley Nursery and Primary School. At the mainland, Lagos mainland, we have it at African Nursery and Primary School, Abule Oja, Yaba. Ekpe, Lupeto Nursery and Primary School. In Ibejuleki, RGM Nursery and Primary School, Ibejuleki. At Etiosa, we have it at Langbasa Nursery and Primary School, Badore Road. Ifakojaye, Vetland Primary School, Old Abeokuta Road, Agege. At Amuwo Odofin is at 5th Avenue Primary School, Festac. And Ojo, St. Michael's Schools Complex, Ojo Arogundigbe, yes. So those are the 20 recreation and wellness centers that we have. And we have medical equipment there. We have games there, game boards like chess, checkers, Ludo, even table tennis. We have a table tennis board that a table tennis, sorry. We have a table tennis there. We have exercise kits there too. So the objective is wherever it is that you're staying, which is close by any of these centers, you can always walk in there and introduce yourself as a Lagos State, public retiree, and you will be welcome there. So instead of just staying at home, like she said, like our facilitator said, instead of just staying at home, you can go in there, mix with people to avert loneliness and things like that. So those are the centers. And we'll send the list too. We do this often when we have our sessions. We talk about our wellness centers so that our retirees will not just be at home, doing nothing. Yeah, she's still not back. So I don't know how we're going to answer all these questions. How often should we take?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, back.
I'm here, ma'am.
I'm sorry. All right.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. So someone is asking, how often should we take calcium? We have so many questions, so maybe you just go ahead.
I unfortunately I can't see most of the questions.
Okay, no
because
problem.
my network.
I'll read them to you. How often
ma'am.
should we take calcium?
Okay, so number one, I remember that I mentioned that there's a reduction, there's a drop in the calcium level as we grow older, especially in women. However, if you've not been diagnosed with a calcium deficiency, I personally do not subscribe to just using medications blindly. If we want to know if there's need, because in as much as these are things that are expected to happen as we age, we'll realize that some of us had parents, grandparents who grew up until 90, 95, 100, and they didn't have any of these problems. So individuals differ, right? And so before we use any medications at all, I would advise that we seek medical medical advice from a medical doctor, who will then say, okay, maybe from your explanations or from the symptoms you are presenting, or from maybe investigations that he or she asked you to do, they can then say, okay, you can use calcium. Because it's not enough to say, okay, use calcium once daily, twice daily, 3 times daily. What about the dosage? Is it 50 milligrams? Is it 100 milligrams? Is it 200? So there's need to be conscious and use on how we use medications responsibly.
Okay, so I think that would answer the next question, which is, what of immune boosters? Is it ideal for the elderly, and how often should it be taken?
Again, I think it's the same principle that applies to all. When we say immune boosters, as the name implies, you want to boost your immune system. That means that you have you already know, or you assume that immune system is compromised or is not as strong as it should be. I'm not against supplements. There are quite a number of good supplements out there. There's Well Woman 50, there's Well Woman 70 plus, and all of that. But when we want to take specific medications, then we should be careful and consult a medical personnel, who will then say, okay, you need this or you don't need this. It's not a one size fits all rule. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Except there's an indication for the use of any medications, then it's not advisable that it is used.
Okay. Are there foods to be avoided for people with arthritis?
Well, there are no specific foods to be avoided for people with arthritis. Although I am not an authority in nutrition and diet,
Yeah.
so but from the little that I know in that aspect, no, there are no foods to be. However, there are foods that should be taken in moderation as we grow, considering the fact that a good number of us are either hypertensive or diabetic or have high cholesterol. We are dealing with one thing or the other. So normally there are general dietary rules where they say you don't take excess sugar, you don't take excess salt, you don't take sodas. All of those apply to everybody, because we can see where the researches are going about when we consume all of those things and what the complications or the after effects might be. But specific foods that should be taken or not taken for people dealing with arthritis, that I do not know of.
Okay, I think we will just have to bring a dietitian for our next health session. But anyway, what's your thoughts about the regenerative treatment?
Okay, so regenerative treatment, cold laser, it's kind of a virgin field in medicine, right? It's not something that is still new, to us. There are researches, I've read a number of researches about regenerative treatment, plasma, what is it called now? Stem cell therapy. Well, I do not have any authority to discuss that, because like I said, I have read some researches about it, but there are so many researches still going on about it too. I mean, before stem cell therapy came for sickle cell survivors, it's been around, it's been in the works for so many years before they could come out to say, okay, this and that. Yes, I read about how it can be used for some musculoskeletal conditions, how it can be used to manage arthritis and all of that. I read about it, but because I have never used it, I have not practiced it, I don't think I can talk so much about it, apart from what I have read.
All right. Without surgery, what else can be done to replace knee lubrication?
Okay, so even surgery does not replace knee lubrication. In cases where a knee replacement is done, it's not to replace the lubrication. What is usually done is to replace the articular surfaces. It's done in situations whereby the bone has degenerated so badly that they need to replace the articular surfaces that make up that joint. When I say articular surfaces, the surface of the femur, the bone that is up, and the surface of the tibia, the bone that is down. It's the same thing with hip replacement surgeries. The head of the femur, the place that fits into, the hip is a ball and socket joint. The head of the femur is the ball. The acetabulum, where it fits into, is the socket. Now, in cases where hip replacement is done, the head of the femur, sometimes it's just the head of the femur that is replaced. So there's partial hip replacement and there's total hip replacement. So it's not to replace the lubrication, it's to replace the articular surfaces in severe cases. Right. So when the lubrication has been reduced, I said something about the fact that the body heals itself, the body regenerates itself. If you don't do an X-ray, you will not know. So once the joint space is reduced, typically the lubrication will reduce too. Now, when we strengthen the supportive structures, one is when we strengthen the supportive structures, it gives us less pain. And pain is what bothers a lot of people, pain and mobility. Now, to replace the lubrication that has been lost in the knee, it will come naturally when the joint mobility has been replaced. For example, somebody that cannot bend their knee past a certain level, but at some point with frequent exercises and all of that, it started to improve. What is improving is that what makes it improve, what is improving that joint mobility is that we are able to some extent, increase that space. And that's why you can picture two bones touching each other. Of course, there are two hard surfaces. They won't be able to go through. So when the space is increasing, the joints will move much more freely. For those of us that have arthritis, we'll notice that sometimes when we are bending our knee or when we are moving, we'll be hearing like cracking sounds. That's what we call crepitus. And that's typical of a joint that has reduced or no lubrication. But when we do our exercises, when we are mobile, when we move, for example, do that bicycle ergometer for 15 minutes every day, and you will see a difference. The other thing that we do in some cases is what we call traction. We can do joint traction, whereby we use some form of mechanical force to pull the bones apart and sustain that traction for a length of time, maybe like 30 minutes, 25 minutes, and all of that. So that also works to help increase the joint space, thereby increasing the lubrication.
All right. What causes serious knee pain?
So many things can cause serious knee pain. Injury, a sprain, a strain, osteoarthritis. Meanwhile, osteoarthritis is not the only type of arthritis. There's rheumatoid arthritis, there's gout arthritis, there's septic arthritis. So knee pain is just a symptom. It's a very broad. It's just like saying what causes headache. So many things could have caused it. Do you understand? So a lot of things can cause knee pain. So it's best for the individual to go to the hospital so that they can narrow down all the possible causes of knee pain to what exactly is causing his or her knee pain.
Okay. What can I do to arthritis on my waist? Because each time I stand up, oh, sorry, let me take that again. Okay, I think she has arthritis on her waist, although she walks regularly. So what can she do?
Okay,
Or
so
he-
if I understand correctly, arthritis on her waist, I want to interpret that as low back.
Okay.
No, there are a couple of things that can cause low back pain. that might or might not be arthritis. It's not only arthritis that can cause low back pain. There are a couple of things that can cause low back pain that might or might not be arthritis. So the person might need some form of radiological investigation to see the state of your low back. Is it arthritis? Is it not? Because like I said earlier, it's not a one-size-fits-all management. Whatever the investigation shows, whatever the physical test shows, determines the kind of management and exercise prescription that we will give that individual. But it also depends on what the radiological investigation shows will determine, is she going to see an orthopedic surgeon or not. But by and large, does the person sit a lot? What does the person's mattress feel like? Is it soft, hard, or firm? If it's a soft mattress, it predisposes to low back pain. If the person sits a lot, the person might want to start breaking and sitting and take a break from sitting every 1 hour, if possible, every 45 minutes, if possible. Those are some of the lifestyle modifications that the person can do. If the person wants to lift, how do you lift? Do you lift with your back, or do you bend to lift, or do you squat to lift? Those are some of the things that she can, some changes that she can make on her own. But like I said, a couple of things can cause low back pain, and so it needs to be ruled out one after the other.
Okay. I'm checking for more questions. Okay, there's one, the very first one I asked you. Someone is asking, can we have examples of environmental exposure? Can you hear that now?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay. Examples of environmental exposure. I think it was in part your first or second slide. I gave examples of.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the question. Can we have examples of environmental exposure?
Environmental exposure. I'm trying to see where that came up.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to check too. Okay, it's under understanding wear and tear.
Okay, so if you are talking about wear and tear, when we're talking about wear and tear here, it was not specific to the joint, right? It was not specific to the joint. So if we talk about environmental exposure in relation to wear and tear generally, we can talk about, let's say, for example, those people that live around this dump site in Ojota, those people that live around these dump sites in Ojota that inhale this constant stench of, refuse and all of that, there's a high possibility that people like that will come down with one form of respiratory issue or the other. I don't know if you understand that. And since we said that wear and tear is a decline in body structure and function, so that is where environmental exposure come in. People that live in areas where a lot of people that stay there smoke, there's what we call passive smoking, and can predispose to respiratory issues such as COPD and all of that. So yes, environmental exposure as regards wear and tear generally.
Okay. Okay, I hope the person that asked the question got that. Okay, I don't think we don't have any more questions, and time is well spent. Hello?
Okay, so sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, okay.
When it comes to wear and tear of the joint, you notice that in people that have osteoarthritis, they get to feel more pain when the weather is cold, because arthritic joints are sensitive to the cold weather.
Oh, okay.
That is an example of environmental exposure.
Okay.
If they take note, they will notice that when the weather is cold during the rainy season, they get to feel more pain. you get to have more flares compared to when we're in dry season. That can be an example of environmental exposure as regards to wear and tear of the joints.
Okay, I think someone wants to Xiaomi 2404. Please go ahead.
Yeah, what I wanted to talk about was the emphasis I made when she wasn't here on prevention. Now we
Oh,
didn't
okay,
really
yes.
do prevention of these disease conditions because, like, although she has touched it, that taking medications irrationally may be out of order, and we have drug interactions, we have things that happen. So prevention should be a better focus, and then like also the diet needed for that. So I think she touched a bit on that, but just to put emphasis on prevention and that there could be like that calcium we are talking about. There are some disease states, I mean, some medications you don't just use calcium with, and lifestyle modification is the in thing for all of these states we encounter as retirees. Diabetes, hypertension, arthritis, all of them is just about having proper lifestyle modifications. So I was saying maybe she could throw light on that.
Ama, before they answer that question, it's slightly about what I want to ask. Is there any food for people with arthritis that they should be avoiding to eat?
I think she's taken that already, but
Prevention.
Doctor, please, can you answer that? Oh well.
Okay, so
Can
am I audible?
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear you. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
we can hear you.
So for the question on prevention, okay, ma'am, thank you. For the
Go
first
ahead.
question on prevention, the reason why I didn't really dwell on it is because of the target audience, right? So when we talk about prevention, I mentioned earlier that for things like when I mentioned when I was talking about wellness tips, I mentioned that most of all these conditions, arthritis, hypertension, diabetes, there is a role that movement plays. And I use the treadmill as an example. When you're on the treadmill is as if you are running on a sport, right? So you're exercising your entire body. If you have arthritis, it helps you. If you have knee arthritis, it helps you. If you have hip arthritis, it helps you. But what it also does is that it helps to train your cardiopulmonary and cardiovascular endurance. Let's also remember that our heart is also a muscle. The heart is a muscle. So the way we are strengthening the muscles of our hands and our legs and our core muscles, we are also strengthening the muscles of our heart. Now, when we talk about prevention will come in people that already know that they have a genetic risk factor. It's not modifiable, but you already know that somebody somewhere that is related to you have it, and you want to take every precaution to ensure that as much as possible you do not come down with it. So, for example, we are talking about hypertension, and you know it runs in the family. So you want to, from an early stage, watch your diet and what you eat. You want to monitor your blood pressure, and you also want to train your cardiopulmonary, your cardiovascular endurance, because cardiovascular endurance is what your cardiovascular system actually is the one that is most indicated. It is the one that has issues in most cases when you have hypertension. Now, there are so many benefits to exercises. Exercises improves your mood, it helps you to sleep better, it aids metabolism. So when we try as much as possible to keep fit within the circumstances or within our environment, it helps. It's like a holistic approach itself. Now, that's on one side. Now, when you now have it, it is now important that you now take your medications, you keep fit, you follow the diet, you do all of that. The only thing that is missing between the preventive approach and the rehabilitation approach is probably the medication aspect. But when you are talking about prevention, the WHO, the theme for World Physiotherapy Day, I think like 2 or 3 years ago, is movement is life. Movement is life. So when we talk about prevention, yes, the world is moving towards prevention because prevention is easier and it is better than cure. So I mentioned some the other time, try as much as possible not to lead a sedentary lifestyle. If your work makes you stay in one position for a very long time, make a conscious effort to change your position from time to time. And as much as possible, keep moving. Movement is life. Then I think he said something about calcium. I think I already answered that question.
I was saying about the irrational use of drugs that some people will now want to just use medications without consultation, like you said. And now may refer to
Prescription.
calcium. That calcium can be a hindrance to some of these pharmacological activities. So there are some cases where you use calcium carefully, but if the disease case is not present, no problem. I mentioned about paracetamol when you were not here. That a lot of people just pick paracetamol, especially at this our age range, and it can over time cause renal impairment. So I just tried to talk about avoiding all of those things and prevention being better. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Yes, you are very right. I think it's important that we keep at the back of our mind that every medication is a potential poison. And that is why there is dosage. If you read the leaflets of medications, dosages are there. The indications when you should use it is there. The contraindications is there. The possible complications are there. Like she rightly said, if you're on certain medications and you use calcium, medications interact with each other. And that's why they say when you are using anti-malaria, don't take fruits, all those things. So it's important that we don't just take medications as we deem fit, or we don't take medical advices from people that are not medical personnel, so that we don't end up doing more harm than good.
Hello, ma.
Did you hear me?
I mean, is
Yes,
there
we
any
heard you,
food,
Madam Rachel. Okay,
ma? Is there any food for people with
please go
arthritis
ahead,
to
please.
avoid eating?
I already mentioned that. I said I do not know, even though I am not an authority in nutrition, but I do not know of any specific food for
Okay.
people that have arthritis that they should not, a food that people that have arthritis should avoid. I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, she deals more with the body, not the diet. Do you understand? So she's not an authority in that, ma. But we'll definitely, like I said earlier, we'll definitely bring a dietitian and a nutritionist on board on one of our sessions. So please keep joining the webinar sessions so that you won't miss out when that person comes. And just to add to what she said, about the prevention aspect, I think we should just maintain a healthy weight, exercise regularly, like she said, try to prevent falls. We should strengthen our muscles, and maintain good posture, because I know there's some people, they don't stand properly, or they don't walk properly, so all that can also cause way past time, but it volunteer to appreciate our facilitator today. Okay, I will call on Madam Rachel Ogunjemi. please kindly do the honors of appreciating our facilitator, ma. Thank you.
On behalf of all the retirees in the public service.
Hello? Hello, ma.
Hello.
Do you have a question? Good afternoon.
Which of that nutrient that you people are talking about?
What?
In the issue of the nutrient you people are talking about, you try your lecture.
I didn't get that, sorry. Uh-oh. Hello, sir.
The voice is not coming up very well.
Yes. Okay, please go ahead, ma'am.
On behalf of the public service retiree, I'm thanking our facilitator. You have done a lot, because as for me, as if it's because of me you have come on board today, and so many of us like that. We say a big thank you to you. More grace to your elbow. The Lord will continue to increase your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in the mighty name of Jesus. To the greater height, more of His grace upon your life in Jesus' name. The Lord bless you. Thanks so much.
Amen.
Thank you very much, ma. Thank you for having me.
Amen.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Okay, someone just put in the chat box that we should avoid ultra-processed foods. Okay, so maybe we should do more of natural foods. Yes. Okay, so I'll just call out our YouTube channel again. Public Service Retirees Cooperative MS. So just type that. Public Service Retirees Cooperative MS. So you just type that. MS, capital M, capital S.
You need that number.
Ma?
We need that number.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think she has left. I'll just let me call it out.
That is on YouTube, Abby.
Yes. You open your YouTube app and you type that and it will pop up.
Okay.
Thank you. Really enjoy. We appreciate what you have done today. God bless you.
Amen. And you too. So, like we usually do, for those of us that are new on the in class today, you can please all unmute yourselves and put on your videos so you can say hello to one another. Those of us that have not seen each other in a while. Good morning.
Careful. Yes. They were careful.
Good afternoon.
The way to talk to you,
Thank you for joining
you cannot control me the way I will talk. Yes, you should be warned. You should control your tongue too. Control your tongue.
This is fighting in public.
Yes, now. Control your tongue.
I don't know. Unfortunately, I can't mute that person because I don't know who it is.
So, now.
What?
My phone read me. I'm fine.
Okay. All right, so we'll just end the call now. Thank you very much for joining. In 2 weeks' time, in July, by God's grace, we'll have another interesting topic for us.
So you can't be saying
thank you for joining. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye, everyone.
If that guy should narrate it the way this is not the way he said
Why are they doing like that?